In January 2026, Meghan Markle looks untouchable. Sunlit Montecito mornings, polished brand messaging, talk of fresh starts and reinvention. It's the kind of image that feels carefully sealed. But online, something very different is happening. Old rumors that never fully disappeared are being pulled back into the spotlight, dissected again with new urgency. And this time, people aren't just gossiping. They're asking whether something foundational was hidden long before Meghan ever met Harry, before the royal fallout, before the public even knew her name. At the center of it all is a claim so explosive that even seasoned royal watchers hesitate to repeat it out loud. Yet it keeps resurfacing anyway, refusing to stay buried. Much of the speculation starts with Meghan's late teen and early college years, a period of her life that's relatively thin on verified public detail compared to everything that came after. Online researchers and gossip forums often focus on timelines from the mid to late 1990s, pointing out gaps that feel unusual for someone whose later life became so thoroughly documented. None of this proves anything on its own, but in internet culture, missing information doesn't stay neutral. It becomes fuel. When fans and critics start mapping dates, locations, and relationships, even ordinary life transitions can morph into something suspicious, especially when viewed through the lens of fame that came years later. At the heart of the renewed buzz is a claim circulating online about a woman in her late 20s who allegedly believes Meghan is her biological mother. To be clear, this identity has not been publicly verified, and no mainstream outlet has confirmed her story. Still, according to rumor-focused channels and online commentators, this woman reportedly grew up sensing that parts of her origin story didn't add up, surrounded by adults who avoided certain questions and discouraged curiosity. These accounts are entirely unproven, but they resonate emotionally, which is why they spread so quickly, because they frame the rumor not as scandal, but as a personal search for truth. One name that consistently appears in older gossip threads is Giuliano, described in speculation as someone Meghan may have been involved with before her publicly known relationships. Some versions of the story suggest a brief marriage or annulment during her early adulthood, though no public records confirming this have ever surfaced. It's important to note that annulments, especially religious ones, are often misunderstood online and don't necessarily leave easily accessible documentation. Still, the absence of proof hasn't stopped people from wondering why this particular name keeps reappearing whenever conversations turn to Meghan's pre-fame life. What escalated this rumor cycle dramatically in 2026 was talk of alleged DNA testing. No results have been released publicly, and no legal filings confirm such tests exist, but the mere suggestion of genetic evidence electrifies the internet. DNA represents finality, something that cuts through spin, PR, and speculation. Online discussions often describe indirect testing through extended relatives, though these explanations usually oversimplify complex science. Even without proof, the idea alone shifts the conversation from "what if" to "what happens if," which is why people suddenly started paying closer attention again. A major reason speculation persists is how silence gets interpreted in celebrity culture. Meghan has a documented history of pursuing legal action when she believes claims cross a line, which leads some observers to question why certain rumors have never been directly challenged in court. That said, silence does not equal admission, and legal strategies vary widely. Still, in the court of public opinion, the absence of denial often becomes its own narrative, especially when paired with claims that feel emotionally charged rather than tabloid-driven. Adding fuel to the fire are resurfaced interviews and offhand remarks from people who crossed paths with Meghan early in her career. In isolation, these comments might mean very little, but once clipped, replayed, and layered into existing rumors, they take on exaggerated importance. None of these statements were made under oath, none resulted in lawsuits, and none have been officially corroborated. But in online culture, repetition can give even casual remarks the illusion of weight. Another layer of speculation involves Meghan's extended family, with internet sleuths pointing to perceived resemblances and unusual relational dynamics. These theories remain highly controversial and deeply unverified, relying heavily on visual comparison and anecdotal interpretation. Critics argue this crosses into unfair conjecture, while supporters insist patterns are too consistent to ignore. What's undeniable is that family-based theories tend to provoke the strongest reactions because they blur the line between private lives and public narratives. One reason these rumors gain traction is Meghan's well-known approach to controlling her public image. From deleting past online content to distancing herself from certain relationships, she has openly curated the version of her story the public sees. To supporters, this is normal boundary setting. To critics, it looks like strategic erasure. The truth likely sits somewhere in between, but the perception of narrative control makes any hidden history rumor feel more plausible to audiences already primed to question what they're shown. Timing matters, and many observers believe this rumor's resurgence is tied to Meghan's renewed attempts at personal rebranding. Whenever a public figure emphasizes authenticity, fresh starts, or transparency, unresolved questions from the past tend to resurface. Online communities often see this as a challenge to the narrative, almost a reflexive response to polished reinvention. Whether intentional or coincidental, 2026 became the moment when old speculation felt newly relevant again. Unlike earlier years, rumors today don't need traditional media to survive. Short clips, reaction videos, and algorithm-driven feeds keep stories alive long after mainstream outlets ignore them. Each retelling adds emotional emphasis, even when no new facts emerge. In this environment, speculation becomes a shared investigation, one driven less by evidence and more by collective curiosity and mistrust of official narratives. If any of these claims were ever to move beyond rumor, the bar for proof would be extremely high. Legal documentation, verified DNA results, or sworn testimony would be necessary, none of which are currently public. That's why most stories like this linger indefinitely, never fully confirmed or disproven. The absence of resolution keeps audiences engaged, suspended in uncertainty rather than closure. Beyond scandal, what truly keeps this story alive is its emotional core. The idea of a hidden past, unresolved identity, or unanswered personal questions taps into something universal. Even people who doubt the claims admit that, if true, it would represent a deeply human conflict rather than just celebrity drama. That emotional hook is why the rumor refuses to fade, regardless of verification. Whether these claims are entirely false, partially true, or something far more complicated, one thing is clear. The internet doesn't forget, and it doesn't move on easily from unanswered questions. In an age of DNA testing, archived records, and relentless digital memory, the past has a way of resurfacing no matter how carefully it was curated. For Meghan Markle, this rumor isn't just about what may or may not have happened decades ago. It's about whether a perfectly managed narrative can survive in a world obsessed with what lies just outside the frame. And until definitive answers emerge, this story will remain exactly where it is now: unresolved, controversial, and impossible for the internet to ignore.